as we mentioned earlier, bonded labour still affects millions of people across the globe, but where is it still most prevalent? And to what extent? Well, Anne-Marie Tomchak is in the World's Newsroom for us now. And Anne-Marie, I guess you've been hearing some pretty harrowing stories as well.
I have, John. I've been speaking to my colleagues here. Up on the 5th floor behind me is the Africa Service. I've been trying to get more of a handle on how prevalent it is in the Middle East, in parts of Asia and in Africa. And the one thing that struck me from talking to my colleagues who have covered this story about bonded labour and about child exploitation is that poverty is the common theme that compels families to put their children in situations like this. Now, I'm joined by Lamine from BBC Afrique, from Javed from the Urdu service, and from Hanan from BBC Arabic. Javed, we saw there the story of Jeannie in Orla Guerin's report. Her case is not an isolated one.
Absolutely no. It's a huge number of children in Pakistan across 4 provinces. They still do work in the factories as home servants and as you have mentioned in the brick kilns. So it's not surprising, and it's not a unique case. There are estimations that about 3 to 4 million children work in different spheres of life, and there's some number of those children who are actually bonded laborers.
So what's being done to try and address this? Is anything being done?
Well, I mean, there are few pieces of legislations which have been done during last 5 years or so, but actually the implementation of those laws is the main problem. No law has been strictly enforced in Pakistan, so we end up with a huge number of children working in those miserable conditions, as you have seen in this report, and in different parts of the country.
Lamine, you're from Burkina Faso, near Ivory Coast, and you helped Panorama make a documentary about child labour and about the work of children on the plantations. Is it a big problem there?
Oh yeah, I would say that it's a big problem. That documentary you're referring to, the bitter truth of sweet chocolate. Actually, it's about how children are trafficked from Burkina Faso and then used in the cocoa plantation in Ivory Coast. And
how did they end up there?
Some relatives already settled in Ivory Coast and working in those cocoa plantations go back home, and they mirror, the opportunity of education to other relatives that stayed back at home. And they say, if you give me your child, I will give him an education, and when he comes back here, he would have that chance of becoming, a VIP in this country.
But so the sad reality is that that's not what happens.
Well, I mean, the dream often actually ends in a nightmare when the child is used in those cocoa plantations, working with long hours, using tools like machetes for a 7-year-old or a 13-year-old. This is very dangerous, and UNICEF has been drumming up, about this issue.
Yeah? And just to bring you in, child labour also a problem in the Middle East, not specifically bonded labour, but child labour.
Child labour, yes, as you said, it's the main reason behind child labour in the Middle East is poverty, because a large number of the population there lives under the breadline. The UN estimates the numbers of children working to up to 13 million children around the Middle East and North Africa. And as Javed was saying earlier, that there are laws trying to regulate child labor around the area, but it's very hard to implement it because they work in very poor conditions, and there are so many accidents when they are, for instance, if they work in agriculture, they are exposed to toxic agriculture chemicals, which end up in children dying.
Culture is also a big problem, because what happens is...
Thanks very much, guys. And we're going to have to leave it there for today. We will continue talking about this here in the World's Newsroom, but we'll just have to hand back to you to the studio for now.
Anne-Marie, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you.